Alright, what's up guys? A little bit of everything Southern Homestead. Today we're going to make some rabbit compost tea, and we're going to feed it right to these plants here. The process takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours before you can use it, but it's a way of turning a slower release fertilizer into something that we can use instantly. So let's get it going. Alright, so it's the beginning of December, and we got some warm weather. Highs are in the 70s, maybe even touching 80. So that's really ideal for making compost tea. We've also had a lot of rain here recently, so we got some extra water that we'll use. All right, well here we are at the rabbit cages. I have my females on top. Here I have, this is some metal trays that catches their rabbit poop. And at the bottom I have the males, and you can see their poop falls straight on the ground. And what that allows is for just to fall, compost, any urine will just go into the ground, and it makes it for easy access. The trays, I'll empty them into a big trash can that has holes in it and kind of give it some time to break down. But the manure that I get right off the ground is ready for using. So we'll go ahead and get us a couple shovels full and put it in this bucket here. And it's okay if it's got a little grass or a little hay in it. It's been down here for a little minute. So we're gonna make 10 gallons of compost tea with this rabbit manure. So we're gonna get us a little bit here. And you can see it's all nice and pelletized, easy to handle, easy to work. Just scoop it right up, put it right in the bucket. We're gonna bring it over there where we catch our rainwater, and we're gonna get it set up. Like I said, it takes 24 to 48 hours for compost tea to really make, but we get it today, we'll be using it by tomorrow. Let's see if y'all can see that there. It's nice and loose, it's dry, all good signs. All right, so here we are at the rain catch. I have a 55-gallon drum here that comes off of the top of my dog kennel. It's a metal roof, comes down the drain, goes through a screen, and then collects all the water here. I've shown it on previous videos where I've used it to water plants and all those things. When you're making compost tea, you don't want any water with chlorine. So either use a rainwater, a natural water from a pond or anything like that, or a filtered water like I've shown in previous videos. When I don't have any rainwater, I'll use that ice pure filter, and I'll put a link in the description for that filter. But so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make 10 gallons. So I have the same buckets I use for my wicking tubs. I like these buckets because they're transparent. We're gonna put this out in the sun, which is the key to why we wanted the temperature of the day to get hot, somewhere above 70. The heating of the water helps activate the manure and the compost to kind of just disseminate in the water and become available in a liquid form. Rabbit manure normally is a slow to medium release. It's considered a non-hot fertilizer, so it doesn't burn the plants, even if you put it on the plants immediately at the root base or at the plant base. When you turn it into a tea, you essentially get those nutrients in an immediate release fashion, where you can pour it directly on the plant, you can spray it on the leaves, any of that nature, and the plant gets it near immediately. I like making a compost tea because I use a lot of wicking tubs, wicking buckets, grow boxes, earth boxes, MSCO planters that have a water reservoir at the bottom below the soil. This tea allows you to pour it straight in at the base of the soil so the roots can get it without having to do anything on top. So it makes it just real nice, real convenient. Rabbit manure, granted I have my own rabbits. Typically you can find manure online. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, something like that, and you can get a whole feed sack. You know, people who raise rabbits, 4-H, kids, people who breed them for the meat will sell a whole bag for $5 or so. So it's real easy to come by, real cheap. So let's get this going. What you'll need is a bucket, a lid. This is just standard leg length pantyhose. And I just get these because they're easier to fill. You can get the other pantyhose if you already have them and maybe just cut them. And that's it. And then your rabbit manure or your compost. So we'll fill the bucket up and then we'll get started. All right, so we got our buckets filled here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill each one of these pantyhose with a good bit. And you'll see as you put the compost or the manure in it, it gets bigger. And then we'll essentially have 2 for each bucket. We'll put them in, we'll cover them, and then we'll put them out in the yard, but I'll explain that. So just a few things about rabbit manure. You've heard me talk in the past about NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium of any kind of nutrient. Rabbit manure has about a 4.5 nitrogen, 2.5 phosphorus, 1.5 potassium. So that high nitrogen number, which 4 in relation to the other ones is about double or quadruple, is really good for plant growth. High nitrogen fertilizers that you find in the market, such as Miracle Grow or other things like that, you know, it really promotes growth. The reason I do this is rabbit compost tea is all organic, and it offers the plant something different than what I normally would fertilize with, which you've seen the Hoss 20-20-20. I've done a few other various inorganic and organic fertilizers. I do have rabbit manure in my soil from when I prepared my fall garden. Also, there's different fertilizers in my container gardens, but this just gives the plant something different to eat. You know, plants need water, air, and food, so instead of feeding them the same old thing every day, I like to try to switch it up and really just make the plants happy. They'll give us a good yield, and we'll get a bunch of vegetables out of them. So all I do simply is spread these pantyhose out, and you can wear gloves, doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. And then I got a little shovel here, and I'm just going to shovel it in, get it to the bottom. There's no real rhyme or reason on how much to put. You really just want to get a good bit. The one thing I don't want in there is any green grass. If it has some straw or some hay or anything else that's been composted in the pile, that's fine. Everything has its own nutrients that's beneficial. Also, what's good about compost is that it has a bunch of microorganisms and different microbes and small trace minerals that are good for the plants. So from South Louisiana, this is kind of like doing a little boudin or a little sausage. You just want to slide it on down. Add some more here. Just want to shake it, get it all to the bottom. And that's what I mentioned earlier about how the manure, it was real dry and pliable. That's what's great about rabbit manure, that those pellets are really easy to work with. So we'll tie the end off, and as you can see in relation to the bucket, it's about the same depth of the bucket. And we'll just go ahead and slide that in. You'll leave this tail out. You'll put the lid on, and then you'll put it in somewhere in your yard that has 100% chance of sun. So you really want the sun to beat down on this bucket as much as possible. So with the highs of the next couple of days being 70s and 80s, they should get a lot of sun. As they, you know, kind of work themselves down and the sun's beating on them, I'll come out once or twice a day and just kind of give them a stir. You can find a bunch of videos where people use aerators and all kind of other devices to help give air and kind of just make the compost break down into the water. I've never found that necessary, and I think it's just an added expense. A pipe, a stick, anything with a couple stirs gets the job done just as good. So we'll go ahead and fill up the rest of these. Like I said, 2 pantyhose per 5-gallon bucket. And I'll show you the picture from the top here in a little bit, where you can see the water's already working itself in through the pantyhose into the manure, and the water's already starting to kind of turn colors like a good tea. So I'm gonna get these filled, and then we'll get them out in the yard. it's just that simple. All right, so we have our lids. Like I said, we'll leave the tail of the stocking hanging out the edge, and we'll simply just close them like that. Just one. We'll do the same thing on this one, and this just keeps the stocking suspended in the water, and that's 2. So that's 10 gallons of rabbit compost tea. If we wanted, we have enough manure here, we could probably make 20 or 25 total. So the sun's just starting to peek out from the clouds again this afternoon. So we're gonna find a spot in the yard where it gets 100% sunlight. Let them sit out for a day or 2. Like I said, stir them whenever you can, and they'll be ready to use. So let's put them out in the yard. All right, so this spot here looks pretty good. Just try to make them as level as possible. Separate them a little bit so they don't shadow each other, so you can see the sun's hitting them. Great thing about these buckets is you can see the color change already. We have both the tails sticking out. Same for this one. The sun's gonna rise in the east, it sets in the west, so this one spot should get sun pretty much all day. So we'll come out this afternoon, we'll stir them. We'll come back tomorrow morning, we'll stir them. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll see what the watercolor looks like. We may start using it then, but I think we're really gonna let it go for about 36 hours total. Since the nights are kind of cool, let the sun really just beat down on them during the day and help break up some of those microbes and just nutrients from the compost, and just put it in the water so we can use it. So 10 gallons rabbit compost tea, NPK 4, 2.5, 1.5. All right, so here we are the next morning. You can see the color change there. Rabbit compost tea is looking pretty good. We'll peel one open, just kind of look at the color here. Let's see, that's my little stick I was using to stir it. All right, so that's what we got working right there. It's looking good. Let that heat hit it today, and it should really start to just break up that manure and that compost, and just put it right into that water. Turn that medium slow release rabbit manure compost into a immediate use fertilizer. We'll be back this afternoon, stir it, and hopefully by this evening it'll be ready. All right, so here we are, we're back at the buckets. This is our rabbit compost tea. We're going right on 39 hours now. I haven't moved the buckets, they're in the same spot in my yard. I've stirred them probably about 5 times now. You can see through the sides of these opaque transparent buckets. So you can see it's real brown, real dark. We'll open them up here shortly, but the weather's forecasting a little bit of rain and clouds, so the heat and the sun is not quite there today. If it was still pretty bright, pretty sunny, I would leave them probably for 48 hours, but since our sun's running out, we'll go ahead and move to the next part where we'll remove the stockings and then just kind of hang them above the bucket, let all the liquid kind of drip out and get in the bucket so we don't miss any nutrients. And I'll show you all that here shortly. But let's open them up, let's take a look inside and see what we got. All right, so this is what we got here. We have our rabbit compost manure inside the pantyhose still. You can see all the solids have stayed in. It's essentially just the nutrients in the liquid. You can see the hay that we were concerned about when we first made these bags is still contained. So everything that's in the water should come out of our little watering bucket or our watering can. The other bucket looks the same. It's got a little smell to it, but it's not terrible. So we'll bring it on over to the swing set, and I'll show you how we hang the bags above the bucket just to let everything drip out. Make sure we get all the nutrients into the water, into the liquid, so that we can go ahead and pour it directly at the base of our plants. So I'm gonna bring it over to the swing set, show you how we hang it up, and finish the process. All right, so here we got our 2 5-gallon buckets. And what I do is I use this crossbar here on the kid's swing set. Pretty much don't have to touch anything. Pull that like so. Make sure it's all the way out. Wrap it a few times. Tie it off. Do the same thing on this one. You want to make sure everything is dripping into the bucket. So it's kind of like brewing tea or coffee, you know. A lot of people talk about the aerators and using all these other devices to help make the compost tea, but for me, the sun and the heat does the best job. So we'll do this. We'll let all the water drip out. Once they dry, we'll go ahead, pour the tea into our watering can, and then we'll give it to the plants this afternoon. So just like that. Scoot this one over, make sure everything gets in. It's really simple, really easy. Didn't really cost anything. We had the buckets, like I said, the compost manure we had, but you can easily find that on Facebook, on Marketplace, on Craigslist. 4-H clubs give away the manure, but you can use any kind of compost to make compost tea, and the plants really love it. So that's about what we're looking for there. Somewhere between a tea and a root beer in color. And the two are pretty consistent. So they're almost identical. It's gonna be perfect. Plants are gonna love it. All right, so it's been about an hour. They coming to a slow stop on the drips here. We're starting to attract a few flies, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this process up. What I have here is just a spare bucket. I'm gonna take these down. Try not to let them fall back in the water. Like such. Drop it in the bucket. And you can throw it away. You can compost it again. You can do whatever you want. I recommend taking it out of the stocking before you put it back in your compost pile. Stockings will break down, but it takes a while. And then the last one here. And what we'll do is we'll put it in our watering cans and we'll feed some plants. So we'll get that out of the way. We'll put a lid on that, keep the flies away from it until we can dispose of it. So this is the watering can I use, just your standard watering can. I think it comes from Tractor Supply. It has the shower spigot here, very small holes, so this is why we don't want to let the compost soak too long in the water, because then you'll get sludge and the sludge will stop up your holes. So what I have here is a funnel. I only use this funnel for gardening purposes. It doesn't really work all that great, but it's better than spilling and losing some of this precious fertilizer. So just take our time real slow and we'll fill the bucket up. And as you pour, and you can see there's no sludge, there's no trash, all just good nutrients. Like I said, the NPK of rabbit fertilizer is pretty good. A lot of people call it the gold standard. So just keep on pouring, keep on pouring. We got 10 gallons here. Each watering can holds 2.5 gallons. All right. So we didn't lose a single bit. So that's one can ready to go. I have an older can here. I'm also going to use it. And we'll fill this one up same way. And just watch when you get to the bottom of the bucket in case there is any trash. That's where it will be. I don't anticipate any. Like I said, we had about a 40-hour soak time on this compost tea. And it's looking pretty good. So there may be a little bit, but it's not enough to stop up anything. All right, just like that. So we'll water these 2 cans. Go ahead, feed the in-ground garden with it. We'll pour a little bit in our container garden, and that'll be it. So thanks for watching, and I hope y'all learned a thing or two. And rabbit compost tea, nothing can beat it. This is the simplest way I found to make it, and doesn't cost much, doesn't require many materials. So happy growing, and let's get to watering.